Well, YCS Salt Lake City has finally concluded with the top cut portion at least, so I'll be doing my very standard and typical analysis of my irrelevant opinion of the top 32 breakdown. So if you are on your computer or whatever, feel free to turn away and just let the noise ramble in your ears while I talk a little bit about what my thoughts are on this. So it's, yeah, just jumping straight into this. I guess really the first thing that popped into my mind was it's really just extenuating the previous events. So it's really just the previous two YCSs for the year, which was Bochum and I think Atlanta it was. It's really just those events, but kind of just repeated and amplified. There wasn't really anything particularly outlandish at the event. There's nothing super surprising here. Obviously, Burning Abyss getting a top because it's Burning Abyss, and that deck will never die, so that's a thing. Farfa is technically the 9th best BA monster. But anyway, so Pendulum Magician's taking over a quarter of the top cut spots, particularly unique decks, of course. Yeah, I don't know. I guess until we see the actual list of the Pendulum Magicians, it's hard to tell really how different they are going to be from one another. Perhaps I would imagine there's going to be a few people playing a bit of a more safer build with just really standard cards, maybe a couple of hand traps. There might be like some full combo based ones where they are playing things like shit, what's it called? My mind's gone blank here. Oh yeah, like the mythical beasts and stuff like that. Just really trying to spam out the field with Electromite as fast as possible. There could be some FTKs among them. We don't really know which ones are FTKs, which ones aren't. They haven't really split it, I suppose you could say, in the deck breakdown. This is from the Konami blog, by the way, if it wasn't obvious, so it's from the Konami website. This is where the source is from, so it didn't really break it down any further than this. It just says Pendulum Magician. So I'd be curious to know and see just exactly what type of magicians are in the top cut. I think that it's probably just going to be much of the same. Maybe one or two FTKs. I mean, I feel like the Pendulum Magician list is fairly standardized by now. I think the deck is fairly solved. But then again, like I said, we'll have to see what the lists coming out of the event are looking like. Unless there's some really crazy, unique variant of it, then I don't really have much else I can really add to it because, well, yeah, like I said, for the last two events or so, the deck has been pretty standardized and to an extent solved, so it'd be interesting to see what kind of stuff was mained in the deck and also with the side deck. Now, in terms of a potential ban list coming up in the future, well, I think some people have suggested that perhaps April, maybe May, but I think there was like the reprint of something that was announced on the Konami blog, and it basically confirmed that there wouldn't be a ban list until June. I can't think off the top of my head what card it was. It was an errata. Yeah, I think something was going to be errata, then it wasn't going to be reprinted until the next bounce. It said something like that in the blog post. I'm not 100% sure. Check out House of Champs channel for that. I believe he did do a video on it. So yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh! Journalism right here, boys. Keeping up to date with the meta, of course. Now, personally, I would think that really to tone down the deck, because clearly it does need toned down. This is the third event in a row where it is taking basically most of the top cut spot. Probably not as drastic as I think it was initially in Atlanta, where I think it took maybe almost half of them. But then it did get toned down a little bit in Bochum, and then it's gone slightly back up here for Salt Lake City. So really hovering around the quarter mark. Yeah, I feel like that's not really anything surprising or anything unique or special about that. So yeah, that's the thing. Now, moving on to True Draco. Yeah, just before I move on from Pendulum, I guess the next logical hit for Pendulum Magician, I think hitting Electromite would be a little bit too far since that card is very new, and I guess they probably wouldn't want to hurt a new card, especially with like special edition stuff coming out. And yeah, I think in general it's a really cool card that's useful for all kinds of Pendulum decks, not just Magicians. So it is very powerful, but I wouldn't exactly put it on the level of game-breakingly broken. So I think most likely we're going to see like an Astrograph hit. I think that would really be the best thing for the deck. Hitting it to 1 would probably not do a whole lot, so just because of Electromite being able to access and search it so easily, I guess Astrograph would have to be outright banned, which I feel like is a little bit extreme, but I can't really think of a more kind of logical way to sort of tap the deck gently. I mean, you could maybe hit Harmonizing, because that card does do a lot of good plays and stuff, but I think realistically we'd have to go with Astrograph Sorcerer. Now, The Dark Worm engine and stuff I think is really cool. I wouldn't want that to be hit. I don't think that's really problematic anyway, and like I said, Electromite probably should stay around a little bit longer, at least to help out other decks, because hey, even shit like DDD runs Electromite, so you know. Now moving on to Draco. So, Ameno, Ameno, Iwato, Ameno. Yeah, okay, everyone's favorite rock, and I don't mean the wrestler. Yeah, I would probably assume that True Draco has been built just to be the True Draco. Yeah, okay, we all know what that deck does. Summon Masterpiece, set a Floodgate, Demise, Desires, lots of powerful spells. Pretty consistent deck. Blinding first, Blinding second. I'm not really sure. I think there's kind of different ways to play it, but I suppose with Magician being very, very powerful going first, you probably want to go first anyway with True Draco, even though that the engine seems to be fairly designed to go second because of the fact that you pop things that your opponent controls with the diagram, with the diagram popping the heritage and stuff, and the trap, which pops your opponent's cards. So yeah, I think it would be probably a little bit too hard to go second regardless, just because of the fact that Pendulum can put up a really scary board with like a negate with Jackal and Vortex, and stuff like that, you know, potentially with a trap search as well, which I'm not really sure if people are still playing or not, but I mean, it is searchable dual size, but anyway, I'm not too sure about that. So, True Draco, yeah, I don't really, I'm not a fan of the deck. As you guys know, I'm very vocal about Floodgates and stuff. Not really super into that kind of playstyle of Yu-Gi-Oh, but hey, it is what it is. Unsurprising that True Draco has done really well at this event, because when you have a deck like Pendulum Magician being the best deck, Pendulum decks are, you know, it's very easy to make an anti-meta Pendulum deck, and True Draco seems to facilitate the best method of creating an anti-meta strategy when Pendulum Magician is the dominant force in a format. So you're going to have things like your Unending Nightmares, Anti-Spells, Solemn Brigade, all these kind of cards that really impact the Pendulum deck. So yeah, unsurprising that True Draco took this many spots. Now, moving on to Mekk-Knight Invoked, I thought that maybe this was just a bit of an anomaly at the last few events where, you know, you had a couple of people, I think like Ryan Levine did well with the deck. I don't think it's that particularly amazing. It's okay. I'm curious to see how people have advanced the deck forward in terms of its deck building procedures and any kind of combo cards and stuff they may have included. So it'll be cool to see what that deck has done. Now for the rest of the quarter, I guess it's pretty much just one-offs. My favorite kind of card ratio. So yeah, a bunch of stuff here that maybe isn't really too surprising. I probably expected Trickstar to take a little bit more spots. ABC sneaking in, I mean, I think it's snuck in at Atlanta as well. Zephyr managed to top 4 and top 32 Balcom, and we have another one here. So Zephyr doing really, I wouldn't say really well, but you know, it's a pretty fun Pendulum deck. Now, I'd be curious to see how it's built, just because of the fact that, for example, the Balcom Zephyr decks that topped were extremely different from one another. They were both Zephyr, but they were built very differently from one another. So I'd be curious to see how this Zephyr deck was built, what kind of engine he decided to run alongside it, trap ratios, just total card number as well, because sometimes that deck can play like 45 and still be fine. So yeah, be curious to see how that is built. Now ABC, yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything to say about that. Inside the mind of Calvin Tahan is really a world conundrum and a spectacle for people to see. Now, Burning Abyss, I mean, it's Burning Abyss. For some reason, it just seems to be having this terrible habit of sneaking into top cuts and events where it really just has no business sneaking in and getting into top cut for. So shoutouts to Dante, holding it down, still keeping it real, and yeah, I mean, Burning Abyss is going to be pretty strong when we get Cherubini. Who knows when that'll be. Knowing my luck, by the time I upload this video, it's probably going to be announced or something, and it'll make me look really stupid, but, you know. So I'd be curious to see how he built it, really. I mean, the one that topped Balcom was just BA cards and trap cards and hand traps, so you can't really innovate BA anymore. It's not really particularly amazing. Same with Trickstar. I mean, it's a very standard engine, and if it's a pretty smooth and linear lineup of monsters and stuff that you play in engine cards, and then the generic Solemn Brigade, good power spell cards like Desires, and you have Eater of Millions to out things, maybe some board wipes, and your Reincarnations, of course. So I wouldn't really expect too much of a difference with Trickstar. Moving on to Metal Foes, much of the same with the previous Metal Foes decks. Now, I'd be curious to know if one of these is a True Draco variant, because I did read a feature match blog thing with Metal Foes True Draco, so they haven't divided it into Metal Foes and Metal Foes True Draco. It could be one of them as a True Draco variant, but if it's pure Metal Foes, that'd be kind of interesting to see, because I don't think the deck does anything super amazing. I think you would play it with Draco personally, just because it has a lot of synergy with the with the heritages and stuff, the combinations being acting as tribute fodder and getting searches and stuff. It's got a little bit of plus to it, so that's cool. And finally, Dino. Shoutouts to Ediception for making Top Cut. 60 card Dino. Yeah, he talked to me a little bit about this before the event, and he was convinced that it was a powerful deck, so I'll be curious to see how he built his deck and what he decided to play. Don't really know much about it. I do believe as of recording this, he's been knocked out, but his friend still continues to live on through the legacy of the Overraptor. So, it's really just my kind of thoughts, honestly. TLDR, overall, generally if I was to sum up this video in one word, it would just be, I mean, not one word, I guess one phrase, much the same, nothing special. Guess the format's starting to get fairly solved. Be curious to see what direction we go in with the new booster set and the new Layer of Darkness and stuff coming up soon. Flames of Destruction obviously coming out just before national season, so we'll see how it goes. Maybe we'll get a ban list. I doubt it. I really doubt it based on the blog post, but we'll see. Anyway, if you've watched this far in the video, give me hashtag Dante is a hero. Dante is a hero. If you've watched this far, comment that down below. Hit the bell button to make sure you subscribe for my content, and yeah, comment, like, subscribe, and see you next time.